The neighborhood takedown. Margaret Hensley stood on her manicured lawn in the quiet suburb of Willow Creek, Virginia, clutching a steaming latte in one hand and her phone in the other, recording as a bulldozer tore into what she called a derelict shed. The structure, tucked at the edge of the neighborhood, was an eyesore, she'd declared, rusted, half hidden by pines, and not up to the standards of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association. But when the shed's walls caved in, sirens wailed, green lights flashed, and a sleek drone zipped into the sky, spinning like it was sizing up the crowd. A man in a worn jacket burst from the trees, flashing a badge and shouting, "You just demolished a DEA surveillance hub." Margaret's jaw dropped. "It didn't have an HOA permit," she stammered. "That's when I knew our peaceful cul-de-sacs were about to become a battleground." It all started a year earlier, when Margaret moved into Willow Creek. She was a retired paralegal with a penchant for control, striding around with a leather-bound notebook like it was the Constitution. We nicknamed her the Overseer. Her real name, Margaret Elaine Hensley, didn't stick. She wore oversized sunglasses, even in the rain, and treated the HOA like her personal fiefdom. No crooked mailbox, chipped paint, or stray garden gnome escaped her scrutiny. But the shed? That was her white whale. The shed sat on a scrubby lot just beyond the HOA's jurisdiction, a detail Margaret ignored. It was small, weathered, draped in a faded tarp, with no signs of Lafino cars, no lights, just shadows. Most of us figured it was a forgotten storage unit, maybe for fishing gear. Margaret, though, saw it as a blight, a haven for vagrants, threatening property values. She'd cruise by in her electric cart, jotting notes, muttering about zoning violations. Nobody knew who owned it. County records listed a vague LLC, and whispers circulated about odd sighting men in dark coats slipping into the woods at midnight, one carrying what looked like a high-tech tripod. My neighbor, Clara, swore she saw a guy rigging a camera in a tree. We laughed it off as ghost stories. We should have paid attention. Margaret's campaign began subtly. Letters to the county, ignored, and complaints at HOA meetings, dismissed. The shed wasn't ours to touch, the board told her. She scoffed, citing emergency bylaws. Then she went nuclear, calling a special meeting with a PowerPoint titled Operation Neighborhood Pride, with ominous music and photos of the shed captioned Crime Magnet. She claimed it housed illegal dumping and hinted at chemical smells. The room stirred. Ed, a board member fond of free bagels, mumbled, "Maybe we should check it out." That was all Margaret needed. She hired a sketchy contractor, Tony, with a backhoe and no questions asked. Paid cash, promised HOA backing, and skipped permits. The plan: hit the shed at dawn, crush it, and dump the debris before anyone blinked. The night before, red flags waved. Margaret strutted into the local diner, ordering coffee as community crusader. She printed flyers boasting Beautification Day. At 3 a.m., two men in tactical gear were spotted near the lot, one with a device resembling a radar dish. Nobody called the sheriff. They moved too cleanly, like they owned the night. At 6:30 a.m., Tony's backhoe roared in. Margaret trailed in her cart, sporting a Standards Over Slums shirt, filming proudly. Neighbors gathered, some in bathrobes, murmuring about legality but too curious to leave. Tony hesitated. "This cool." Margaret waved her notebook. The first strike buckled the shed. The second unleashed chaos. Green lights blazed, a piercing alarm shrieked, and a drone shot upward, humming menacingly. Margaret yelped, dropping her phone. A man sprinted from the trees, mud splattered, badge gleaming. "DEA. Stand back," he barked. "Who did this?" Margaret squeaked. "I thought it was junk." The agent, later identified as Agent Daniel Holt, glared. "That junk was tracking a meth syndicate. You just blew a 2-year operation." The fallout was swift. The shed was a DEA outpost, packed with cameras, encrypted comms, and sensors, worth millions. Its destruction tipped off a drug ring operating from a split level 3 streets over. By noon, the target house was empty, vans gone, blinds shut, servers wiped. Agent Holt cornered Margaret. "Permits?" "Court orders." The DEA cordoned off the site, now a crime scene. They salvaged what they could: shattered drives, fried circuits. A fail-safe had wiped the data when the shed was breached. Margaret tried to flee in her cart, but a black SUV blocked her. Holt sat her on the curb, her bravado crumbling. Reporters swarmed, and by evening, the story was national. HOA President Rex DA Sting. Margaret's defense that she was protecting the neighborhood rang hollow when texts surfaced. She'd forged board approvals, faked signatures, and bullied dissenters. One email showed her calling the shed Satan's outhouse. The neighborhood reeled. Board members got subpoenas. Ed admitted he'd only agreed to a letter, not demolition. Clara revealed Margaret had fined her for excessive roses and pocketed the cash. Worse, the DEA found Margaret's HOA office stuffed with surveillance logs, photos of teens biking, license plates, even a widow's yoga sessions snapped with a telephoto lens. She'd built a mini NSA, targeting anyone who irked her. A locked drawer held a bombshell, a complaint about a towed van from last year, marked with a DEA seal. Margaret had it hauled for peeling paint, disrupting another sting. Holt's team pivoted. The shed had been tracking a syndicate laundering money through suburban flips. Margaret's stunt forced the cartel to move, leaving traces. Holt leaked fake intel online, hinting a rogue agent was selling shed data. He recruited Ellen, a timid ex-HOA treasurer, to pose as a go-between. Ellen, fed up with Margaret's reign, brought damning records. Margaret had fast-tracked a shady LLC's land deal, tied to the cartel. Holt's trap worked. A burner phone pinged Ellen. Talk. The DEA traced it, zeroing in on a mansion Margaret had zoned for a clubhouse. A dawn raid uncovered servers, guns, and a chilling find. A dossier on Holt, complete with his commute routes. The syndicate was bigger than anyone guessed, bribing officials and rigging HOAs for cover. Margaret's blunder exposed it. The DOJ filed RICO charges, froze accounts, and nabbed 30 suspects across states. Margaret faced trial for obstruction, forgery, and property destruction. She took a plea, house arrest, a hefty fine, and a lifetime HOA ban. A psych eval labeled her delusionally authoritarian. Her colonial went up for sale, hedges wild, cart rotting. Kids taped a sign, Fortress of Fiasco. Willow Creek healed slowly. The HOA dissolved, replaced by a cooperative board with a no bulldozers rule. The shed's lot got a plaque, Here Fell Folly. Holt, promoted, used the case to train agents, dubbing it Operation Overreach. Margaret moved to a Delaware beach town, shunned by locals after trying to join a book club. Years later, at a civics seminar, someone mentioned her as a leadership don't. She left early. The story lingered, a cautionary tale of power unchecked. The syndicate's collapse was a win, but at a cost trust shattered, lives endangered. Margaret wasn't a villain, just a woman who thought rules were her crown. That's the real lesson. Control can blind you, and one bad call can topple empires. What do you think? Was Margaret a bully or just misguided? How do you handle power and injustice in your community? Share your take in the comments. We're all ears for your perspective on navigating conflict and standing up for what's right.